got news that Square Enix is working on an Avengers game, and it's going to be Crystal Dynamics and Eidos Montreal are attached to Marvel projects. And Kotaku is reporting that Crystal's on Avengers, meanwhile Eidos is on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
And then you stack that on top of Insomniac doing Spider-Man, Telltale doing Guardians also, and Marvel vs. Capcom having everybody punch each other along with Ryu.
Plus the Lego games.
That's good news.
Yeah.
That's a huge step up from like, you know, no offense, but like High Moon Studios and Activision. And,
totally. And it's we've been talking about it for a while. Like Disney has been so smart with keeping Marvel as a brand in super high quality, and not doing the DC thing of like tarnishing it with like BVS and Suicide Squad. But we hadn't seen games. Like they've been doing it in terms of movies. Like like the Marvel Studios movies have been good, but it was just like
but they've been completely lacking in the video.
We're like, where the hell are these games?
Whereas it's the other way around with you know, WB.
Well,
ironically,
I think that they're applying their learnings from the film world here, because like when Marvel bought Star Wars and Marvel bought Disney bought Star Wars and Disney bought Marvel, everybody sort of panicked, but they chose the right people to helm the right roles, and then we're kind of like laissez-faire about it. They're like, well, you guys know the source material, we just own the property, so you do what you need to do with this property. So I love the idea of them looking at, like, watching reviews, seeing companies that they like and saying, well, these guys would do an excellent Marvel game. Let's turn it over to them.
When they opened their games division back at E3, and it was like, the first project is Insomniac Spider-Man. We're like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah.
And then they're like chilling out, and they're like, okay, so the studio that brought you Tomb Raider is going to bring you, you know, the Avengers. The studio that brought you Deus Ex is going to, and Hitman is going to give you Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, and I feel like with all of this, and obviously fingers crossed, but I feel like we're like kind of like slowly careening into another golden age of like of comics as video games.
Yeah.
I mean, we got a lot when I was a kid in the Nintendo era, Super Nintendo era, Genesis era. There was a ton of comic book games. Not many of them were great, but they were side-scrolling beat 'em ups. They were platformers. They were interesting, at least. Like we got I had a Silver Surfer game on NES. Like, why hasn't that really happened?
Maximum
since?
Carnage on
actually-
Super Nintendo.
Yeah, Maximum Carnage,
Yeah.
which is awesome.
I was reading an old X-Men comic the other day, and they had an
Really?
ad for
You?
Yeah, I know.
Weird.
Weird brain problems. But it was something from like, you know, old X Factor or something, and they had an ad for a giveaway they were doing for that Silver Surfer game, that insanely stupidly hard one. And the grand prize was a friggin' Silver Surfer jet ski.
Yeah.
They like airbrushed
awesome.
Silver Surfer, and it wasn't like a Sea-Doo, which are like safer. It's like a stand up and kill yourself jet ski.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, who has that?
Dude, like total tangent, that game is not good and it's very difficult.
It's hard as hell.
But the soundtrack is phenomenal.
For the NES?
Yeah, it's like crazy space, like heavy metal butt rock made out of chip tunes. Like it's kind of awesome.
Yeah, like, but I'm looking at this and I'm like, I'm super stoked for this, and sort of just like my mind keeps wandering. Well, first off, I don't think we're gonna get these for a very long time.
Yeah.
But my mind keeps wandering to like, what other studios can they partner up with? And like, the idea, I know you guys aren't big Gears of War fans, but imagining like a Gears like Coalition making an X-Force game, like replace Marcus Phoenix with Cable.
I mean, they all the same body types.
That's a palette swap.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah.
Or like, you mentioned Silver Surfer. I'm like, what if there's just a passive like that game company, Silver Surfer game, where you're just doing little surfies down the
I don't think you understand what Silver Surfer's job is.
I really don't.
He's
Is it like the Herald of Galactus?
Yeah, that'd be like if Journey showed up on the top of that mountain and was like,
his name
you're all
isn't
dead.
Journey.
Yeah, Journey shows up with a
His name is
scarf.
Journey, yeah.
Silver Scarfer.
Wally Wanderman.
Wily Wanderman.
What was that PSVR game? Not Bound, the other one, Thumper.
Oh yeah,
I want that, but as Silver Surfer.
Yeah, with Joe Satriani blowing in your ear holes.
Yeah, Joe Satriani blowing in your ear holes, all VR, Silver Surfers, but just.
I mean, the idea of a Marvel Comics thing, like a AAA level one in VR, is like, I just get excited thinking about that. You know,
I mean, just a AAA Marvel Comics game, period.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's well. I mean, we've had like they've had some swings and misses. You know, there've been some.
Deadpool was interesting. It wasn't bad.
so
It
almost
wasn't good. Yeah.
One of the things that we did here at IGN when we heard that this was going to happen was we resurfaced this video that we made about a year ago that was the best Marvel GTA mods.
Oh yeah.
And I wasn't super I wasn't quite there on the idea of a Marvel game. You know, I was like, I'm not necessarily sure that I need to play that. And then I'm watching these like the Hulk mod in GTA or the Iron Man mod. And I was like, That is awesome.
Yeah.
I want to do that so bad. That looks awesome.
There were some surprisingly good Hulk games.
Yeah, that Hulk Ultimate game was really good.
Yeah.
Destruction.
That was
where you
awesome.
could make a glove out of a car, punch another car in the car.
I really think like comic books lend themselves to video games some in many ways better than they do film or TV.
I mean, honestly,
in a lot of ways. Obviously, there's tons of great comic book movies, like lots of really cool comic book TV shows. But in terms of like video games, you can sort of strip away, I don't know, a lot of like the logic and seriousness that you kind of have to pad out a movie with. You have to sort of like ground this in some way. And with a video game, you're just like, no, who cares? Like, let Wolverine tear up a car because it's fun.
Yeah.
Oh, my car!
The one thing from this also is that, according to Jason Schreier's report on Kotaku, is that Eidos is putting Deus Ex on hold.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, the second one didn't really sell super well.
Yeah.
Like we loved it here in the office, but it was like,
Yeah. But I mean,
such a bummer though, like, because that was like this beloved, IP, and they basically rebooted it, and everyone was like kind of wary about it, and then was it Human Revolution?
that was the first one.
Yeah,
Mankind.
and then it was like that was received really well, and it was gorgeous. It took forever for it to come out, like it was teased for ages.
Mankind Divided was received really well, and no one talked about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, no one played it.
Everyone was mad because it was like what the bosses were like weirdly balanced or something.
That was the first.
Yeah.
But it seems like they fixed that in the one from last year. But like,
there are some games that we talk about here in the office for a really long time, and then they come out and everybody talks about it for a week and is really stoked on it, and then they just totally drop off the radar.
It's also
and that was
bizarre because
games.
like the futurism in there, I feel like almost dated itself. Like when the first one came out, it was like we were. I don't know. I mean, the future is always kind of happening, but there was stuff that went from being like completely, high concept sci-fi stuff, like I don't know, drones or augmented reality or whatever, to like, there's actually like, dudes on Reddit with 3D printed prosthetic cybernetic arms and stuff.
Sure.
And the weirdest thing was the development time it took for Mankind Divided. I think more time passed in the development than did in the universe. I might have that backwards, but it was like, we talked about this on Up at Noon, but it was it just struck me as kind of like they weren't doing like a massive leap forward. Like for instance, like with Cyberpunk 2077, which is probably going to come out in 2077. That is a modernization of Cyberpunk 2025,
right?
Because 2025 is like it's
right around the corner.
It's next year. But
oh, you're bad at math.
Yeah. No, it veers.
Look at my job.
It veers into.
I'm not making games.
It veers into paleofuturism, basically, which is like predicting a version of the future, and then the actual current events eclipse that version, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait. The Jetsons this year had a car and a suitcase. Like that's like I said a lot of like very sort of like heady terms, and then it boils down to just like George Jetson driving to work in his suitcase.
No, do you remember that?
Like that doesn't make sense.
Do you remember that Lego line in the space one that was just Ice Planet 2002?
Yep.
And I was like, what? Like those came out in like 1996, and they were like, yeah, we're gonna colonize an ice planet and have laser chainsaws. You're like, what the
2002 is very boring when you think about it.
The Deus Ex thing is weird because I think it sort of joins the original Tomb Raider with a game that sold well, was received incredibly well, but then we get this like press release afterwards or a quote where they're just like, this underperformed. And you're like, what? You sold millions, but it's like, no, but we needed to sell like 7.
Yeah.
Like I was reading about the investors in Japan for Capcom and how they're disappointed with the sales of Resident Evil 7 compared to 6, even though I guarantee that 7 was cheaper to make than 6. I guarantee.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, you're not mocapping.
Well, and 7 is critically acclaimed.
Yeah, exactly. But like when you compare the sales numbers of the two, one is doing better than the other, and the bottom line is really all that matters because video games are a business. And sometimes it's kind of disheartening because like you have to lose, like we're getting some cool Marvel games and you lose something like this. So I hope that like they find a place for the Deus Ex franchise because it's really cool and it's unlike anything else in games.
I mean, I hope that for you're just going to be playing as like Rocket Raccoon instead of Adam Jensen, who's another he never asked for it. They did a bunch of science experiments on him.
The idea of playing a game like Hitman with the Guardians of the Galaxy where you can swap on the fly, like you can swap characters on the fly and have all these alternate different routes leading to the same objective, just gets me feeling all sexual.
Cool.
I'm very curious if either of these games will be multiplayer. Just because obviously they're two such giant teams.
I didn't even think about it being multiplayer.
And then the other game that immediately came to mind would be if Square Enix Montreal, who's responsible for the Go games, would make some sort of like Avengers Go or some Marvel something Go.
That's so cool you said that because we said that on Up at Noon as well. I actually like adore those games, and I feel like they're kind of slept on consoles. Like a lot of people on iPhone played them because they lend themselves well to touchscreen, but they're all on PS4. And
not Deus Ex.
Not Deus Ex.
Yeah, the first.
Oh, really? Is that?
Yeah, Hitman and Tomb Raider. Deus Ex isn't yet. I don't think.
It will be eventually.
It will be.
Yeah.
But yeah, go check those out if you can. They're regularly in like those PSN flash sales for like
There's games I will keep on my phone forever because I'll just play those games on a phone.
Yep.
If you could play as any Marvel hero in a game, what would it be?
Ooh, I mean, I really love Gambit. Max and I always talk about how stupid a lot of the X-Men are, even though we secretly love them.
Yeah.
But Gambit's one of those guys that like he's having his own movie is kind of silly, but him in the video game makes perfect sense because you're just like interacting with stuff around you. You're supercharging it.
Distance and melee.
That's
totally.
That's the thing that I think works so well for superheroes is that if they have a power that translates to something you want to do in a video game, it totally works. Like making a Professor X game wouldn't ever make sense because how would you? I mean, it would be like Remember Me or something.
Sure.
I want a rogue dating
Yeah.
simulator where she kisses people and kills them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like Hulk works because Hulk is just a really strong man.
Yeah.
He's a brawler waiting to happen.
Yeah, he's just a brawler.
I want Jessica Jones noir game where half of it takes place in a bar.
Of course you do.
All the sex.
Oh, superpower
Drinking and banging.
It sounds like a stupid joke, but I want a Daredevil game.
Yeah.
They were working on one for a while that was going to have, I think, sort of a precursor to like what detective mode was.
Yeah.
Like that was back in, God, I want to say that was like PS2 era.
Yeah.
And I think it was sort of tied into the movie, but it was at that point when like licensed games were in a really bad spot.
Yeah.
And superhero movies were not like a proven thing yet.
Yeah. I would
it was also
really
developed by Evanescence.
So here's what I want for
here's such a bad movie.
Here's what I want for a Daredevil game. I want it once again to be entirely VR. I want it to be very, very sound based.
Also, you're blind.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like see what he sees.
Like I want it to be so every now and then you get the sort of like you get like pings
Sonar.
where you get like this sonar map of the environment around you, and make it like 2 hours long. Make it like the Batman game.
Have you checked out that game
sounds awesome.
Persuasion?
No.
Persuasion?
Oh.
It's on IGN first. We had Possession.
Oh, you told me about this one.
Yeah, it's the one. It's Bill Gardner who worked on BioShock, and it's a first person horror game, but you play as a black woman.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Friend of the show, Anthony Gallegos used to put me onto this iPhone game. I've totally
Friend
forget
of
the name
many
it.
shows.
Yeah, many shows. It's an iPhone game that has no graphics. Really.
Santa Sangre?
Yes, that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
And it's all sound based, and you put your headphones in, and you walk in different directions, and you can hear enemies coming closer.
That's really cool.
Yeah, the game starts with you being buried alive. And
yeah.
you wake up in the afterlife.
I love the idea of like a Daredevil game that is a cross between like Super Hot and the listening mode in Last of Us.
Yeah.
Where you're like,
dude, that
that'd
sounds
be rad.
awesome. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Daredevil would be great for that because I mean, again, that becomes a limitation, but also a mechanic.
Yep.
Oh man, I don't know. I'd love to see like. It'd be really cool to see just like a 80s, just like classics, Silver Age heroes as like the hero shooter or something. I mean, we kind of have Marvel Heroes Online, and I feel like the term like hero shooter or hero, like just anything hero based, like a MOBA. It really lends itself to superheroes because they're always fighting each other for no reason.
Yeah, I think it makes perfect sense.
You really don't need.
But that is the issue with having multiple heroes in one, like with teams, like super, which is what more of Marvel is team based.
Right.
But you have to balance all those characters. So I mean, the idea of doing like Guardians of the Galaxy and having you like, I'm going to switch between characters, but like, what if Groot is just super overpowered? And
the thing is, like Marty said, like if you could play multiplayer.
Yeah.
As the Guardians of the Galaxy and tackle objectives together, like that would be amazing.
Yeah. Well, look at the way Battlefront handles it. Like it's basically just a toy box mode where it takes all your favorite Star Wars heroes and villains and pits them against each other. I mean, you can have like Chewbacca fight Krennic, and you're like, oh, cool. Like they could totally do that with Marvel.
I mean, I love how we have that. We have that
totally
like this isn't canon. This doesn't make sense. But then you go back and read old comics, and it's like, oh no, Colossus got hypnotized, and he thinks he's a Soviet proletariat worker or something. You're like, what are you doing?
Classic Colossus.
Aunt May drank a cup of venom.
Yeah. No, there's a comic where Aunt May becomes the Golden Oldie.
Yeah.
Yeah. She becomes like a Silver Surfer, and she has to go and make Galactus go away.
Yep.
With Franklin Richards by her side.
I'm so glad we don't
There you
collect
go.
those toys on the level we collect Star Wars toys.
It's only a matter of time.
I know.